Sorry about that. Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner. Classics, non-classics. Sit. This is episode number 198 and Doubleshot number 132. Two more Civil War trades for you. Still continuing on the 10th anniversary trend of basically just reviewing trades that reviewing stuff related to Civil War, and plus because Civil War is coming out, because Civil War is getting a sequel coming out this coming June. Okay. First up, it's Young Avengers and Runaways from Civil War. Written by Zeb Wells and artwork by Safiso Calais. This contains the 4-issue miniseries. Now, to say off the bat, this was a brilliant stroke of genius on the part of Marvel teaming these two team up. Well, in the case of Young Avengers, they, at this point in time, had only had their original ongoing series, which ended the 12-issue and a special, and a mini-series, Young Avengers Presents. This is the first time featured in anything since that series ended. The Runaways, this basically takes a couple of one of their arcs in the, I believe in Volume 2. Because they make a reference in here because Captain America asked the Young Avengers to look at the Runaways. Excuse me. And they bring up the fact that they don't like Captain America because last time they saw him, he put them in foster homes. Well, the book in time was written by Brian K. Vaughan, the series creator. Awesome writer, by the way. Anyways, so basically you have a bit of a tie-in to what goes on in the pages of Runaways, and not much in the case of Young Avengers, but you do get some development for them. And this is kind of like, unlike with Civil War X, which has very little to do with Civil War, this does have a little bit to do with Civil War, but not very much. This is another side story that they came out with, but it's a really good one too, despite the fact half the time we read this miniseries, these two teams are fighting each other. And plus, there is a sort of follow-up to this one during Secret Invasion. However, I'll get to that eventually when I get a chance to get my hands on Secret Invasion trades. But despite that, this is really good. Zeb Wells is a fantastic writer when it comes to writing characters like this. Everybody is pretty much in character, and I love the continuity nods to this, but it does give people a recommendation to read the Runaways ongoing series at this point. I definitely recommend the Runaways ongoing series, despite the fact they haven't had a series published. I mean, yes, they had one published in Secret Wars, but featuring these characters, not since 2009. So, it's been 7 years since they've had an ongoing series. But they popped up now and again. They show up a couple of Avengers Academy, showing up in the pages of Dark Wolverine, and I think that's it. But this character, Nico, she's been several stuff. I mean, she's been Avengers Arena, Avengers Undercover. I mean, currently she's been Avengers A-Force. But what about the rest of the characters? I wonder about that, but excuse me. But suffice to say, awesome trade. I recommend it definitely, especially people who are fans of either Runaways or Young Avengers who have never read this before. I do recommend it. It's really good. 9 out of 10. Next up is Fantastic Four from their Civil War tie-in, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Now, some thinking, that name sounds familiar, as in the creator of Babylon 5, the former writer of Amazing Spider-Man, Thor, Superman, the guy who came with the Grounded storyline, and Wonder Woman Odyssey. He also wrote Fantastic Four when he was working for Marvel. And he also wrote Thor. His Fantastic Four stuff is actually really good. It's thoroughly enjoyable. And this book covers issues 538 to 543. Now, this book is also co-written not only just by J. Michael Straczynski, but it's co-written with Dwayne McDuffie. Yes, the creator of Static Shock co-wrote this thing. It is written with Stan Lee and Paul Pope. And artwork by Mike McKinney with Nick Degas, Mike Aldred, and Paul Pope. 1 second. I knew that was coming. This one heavily ties into the events of Civil War. Basically, this is the Fantastic Four's, this is their perspective on it. And it also reveals why the Thing was not involved during the initial miniseries. The reason why that is because he left the country. Yes, the Thing left the country. Oh, I almost forgot to show off artwork for this. I almost forgot that. Forgot about that. Not bad artwork. I mean, it's like I think it might have been the artist who did the Runaways ongoing series last one, but here's some artwork by well, who's doing Fantastic Four. Good facial expressions. I love the way the costumes are drawn here. Beautiful artwork. And later on, it gets a bit weird, especially with Mike Aldridge's artwork. But basically, this, despite that it's a Fantastic Four tie-in to Civil War, it's all about the Fantastic Four. Iron Man's involved with this a little bit, but not very much. Iron Man's not in this at all. Captain America is, but Iron Man is not. This basically is dealing with the reactions, basically, the Fantastic Four are facing. I mean, Reed and Sue are facing separation. Johnny gets injured toward the beginning of Civil War, and I think Big Kid's country. Basically, the Fantastic Four are falling apart. But by the end of the Civil War, basically, the Fantastic Four goes back to normal. I mean, the Thing is not charged with avoiding the Super Restoration Act. I mean, the reason why that is because Reed is good friends with Tony Stark. So basically, the Thing is immune from it, and also because Sue Storm and Human Torch defected to the Super Restoration side just so they can make the good graces of the government. That's the only reason I can think of. But it's also a nice character piece for the family, first family of comics, the first family of the Marvel Universe itself. Plus, the biggest surprise at the end is that Reed and Sue have decided to take a leave of absence from the team. That is nothing unusual. Hey, come on, the Avengers have had it all the time. Excuse me. Simply put, at the end of it, basically, the marriage of Reed and Sue Richards are on the rocks throughout most of this thing. By the end, they recovered. So, in order to fully get back into their marriage, they decided to go on a second honeymoon. And while they're gone, guess who's going to take their place? This is not a really big spoiler because the book itself is 10 years old. The issues in here came out 10 years ago. And the people who replace him are then rulers of Wakanda, Storm and Black Panther. Though, thanks to Brian Michael Bendis, they are no longer a couple anymore. Hooray. You took away possibly one of the best couples in Marvel Comics history in the form of Black Panther and Storm. Though I could see these two come back together sometime in the future. I don't know, but it's still a possibility. Nothing says you can't. I mean, Bendis is not writing the X-Books anymore, and he's not writing Avengers. He's just sticking to writing Guardians of the Galaxy and Iron Man. I mean, it's not because they can't hook it back up. I mean, their relationship was great. And them joining the Fantastic Four was a brilliant stroke of genius. And I think by far, Storm is the first official X-Men. First time that an X-Men has joined the team since I think the 90s, when they had Wolverine fill-in, when they had that fill-in team that Storm had when the male members were missing, when they had Spider-Man, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine. Yeah. Great choices, by the way, in the course of Reed and Sue. And, excuse me, and there's some bonus stories in here, done by a few different artists. There's, next is Reconstruction, definitely. But next is just a backup story. It's like the other stuff, it's just bonus stories, like a story featuring, kind of the early days Fantastic Four, dealing with, the FF taking on the Mole Man. I mean, it definitely takes place early days. Heck, there's even a cameo by Stan Lee himself. There's a Stan Lee cameo. Originally, I didn't care for Mike Aldridge's artwork, but as time went on, I grew to enjoy it. And there's even a story there's a solo story for Human Torch, which is really good. Also features Spider-Man making a guest star appearance. And it's really a race car thing, but it's a really... Heck, it was even during a point in time when they had Crystal and Johnny work together as a couple. Though now, Johnny Storm is banging her sister. Yep. But it's a nice standalone story. But, yeah, JMS really does a great job with the family aspects when it comes to Fantastic Four. And even though this is a heavy tie-in to Civil War, but this is one of the books that was definitely affected. Not very much per se, but it was affected by the conclusion of Civil War. I mean, Thing rejoined Fantastic Four. I mean, if you look at the members, if you look at the 4 founding members, the only member to never officially quit the team in the entire team of existence was the Human Torch. And he stuck with the team for years. Excuse me. And he's been pretty much like almost every single issue of the Fantastic Four title, except for like I think he missed one. And that was at the conclusion of the 3 arc when he apparently died. Yeah, but this is great. Highly recommended. 9.5. This is actually slightly better than Young Avengers and Runaways because this is a top tier book. Despite the fact Marvel no longer publishes this title. Yes. Now, let me get to that. Let me set this down here, and I'll tell you the reason why. Now, there's been a theory rolling around for the past year that the reason why Marvel canceled Fantastic Four was to take out Fox, so they can give them back the movie rights to Fantastic Four. Now, this has not been. This is just a rumor. This has not been proven true at all. Another reason, this is a little more official, is because Fantastic Four has been not making much money over the years. Mainly due to low sales, despite the fact this is an old title, and yet this title is not selling very well. It had, I mean, from what I've heard, the book had not been selling well for years, but yet Marvel still kept this book going because they had a lot of respect for Stan Lee. I think Stan Lee himself would not like the fact that book he started back in the 60s is no longer being published. Now, when people read the last run of Fantastic Four by James Robinson, a lot of people agree that this was probably the best work Fantastic Four, best Fantastic Four stories in years. Some people were saying no one has said this outright. Some say it could be better than Hickman's run for Avengers, and he had a lot of Hickman's for Fantastic Four. Hickman's run for Fantastic Four. And I could say that yes, because it basically if you read the book, you're reading Fantastic Four, not some science fiction thing that features the Fantastic Four written by Jonathan Hickman. No, Frax's run is mixed at best. I mean, it's not down outright despised. Heck, when it comes to Fantastic Four is actually one of the very few titles Marvel has published where it's very rarely had a bad issue in this entire 645 issue run. Yes, Marvel has had to restore the original numbering, despite the fact they can't do it for other books. But hey, every single writer who wrote this book, there's some great writers who wrote the book besides Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. You also have people like Tom DeFalco, John Byrne, George Perez, Hickman, and James Robinson. Fraction, well, he's kind of hit and miss, basically, when it comes to people. But heck, even JMS, he had a great one too. But suffice it to say, Fantastic Four, not for everybody, but if you're looking for a good superhero book that deals with family aspects, Fantastic Four is definitely your book. Now, as far as I know, a good chunk of the series has been put into trade. Not every single issue has. Heck, there's probably close to 100 issues that never collected in trade for Fantastic Four. But Marvel's actually much more closer. They've been, if you think of it, can you think of any series Marvel has published over the years since the 60s where every single issue is collected in trade? The answer is no. But, look at Amazing Spider-Man, for example. Amazing Spider-Man has close to 100 issues that have never been collected in trade. And that's mainly issues that came out back in the 80s and 90s. And a few issues that came out in the 2000s. But, yeah. Great book. This book, I give a 9.5. Great. It's an awesome book to read. If you're a fan of JMS and Dwayne McDuffie, you enjoy this book. I enjoyed the book too. I've always had a soft spot for Fantastic Four, despite the fact not being one of my favorite titles, but I've always had a soft spot for this particular team because they've had a lot of really good stories over the years. And sometimes their book is basically usually the book that usually pushes the Marvel universe forward. But since the book has ended, and the fact that when it comes to the 4 founding members, Johnny Storm is in Uncanny Inhumans, and he's in Uncanny Avengers. The Thing is in Guardians of the Galaxy, while Reed and Sue and their kids, they're off on Battle World making new universes. I mean, I think Hickman himself, basically, I think he wanted to reverse, not exactly retcon his run, mainly do some reversals on it, but suffice it to say, it's a great series when it comes to Fantastic Four. And when it comes... Now, people have basically downright despised Secret Wars. Now, I'm talking about Secret Wars because some people say it's a great story. It's a great character piece for the Fantastic Four. That is indeed true. If you read all 9 issues, you can see that the Hickman does still have a lot of love and respect for the Fantastic Four, despite the fact he has not written the characters in the past 3 years. Well, he's written Mr. Fantastic, of course, in the pages of New Avengers, but he hasn't written the title itself in 4 years. But he has still a lot of respect for these characters, and he would love to see the characters move forward, but who knows? I'm hoping in near future. I'm hoping that if Marvel does bring back the title of Fantastic Four, here's what I just remember should be. I suggest it be formed by Spider-Man, because he himself in the Marvel Universe, he's a Fantastic Four fanboy. I would have him, the Human Torch, because he's the only member of Fantastic Four still on Earth. I would have him, Johnny Storm. Let's see. I would have the No, not the She-Hulk. Maybe. Excuse me. I would have somebody fill the role of Reed. Not exactly Reed. I mean, Spider-Man fills that role perfectly. I would have only somebody fill in the role, basically who could be the woman, the member of the team, and who could be filling the face of the Thing. That's my perspective, and who would have write it? Well, Robinson could write it, but he's a little busy. If I would say who could write it and who's not too busy, maybe Tom Taylor. He'd be a good choice. But I'm probably going to do a top 10 writers who could do a Fantastic Four book if they wanted to. That's something I possibly could do in the future. But despite that, that's it. Stay tuned for the next episode, which will be the 199th episode. And I'll have to figure out exactly what I'm going to do for that episode. And plus, 200 is coming up. Yes, 200. It's taken me a little bit 3 years to get this far, and I'm going to get to 200 soon. I'm hoping to get to 200 before the end of the month. That is my goal. That was only 2 videos away when it comes to the series. But despite that, that's it. Until then, see you there. Bye.